Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mayor Rich Hill from the Village of Raleigh Beach. This is May 2019, and tonight my guest is Mayor Leon Rockingham from North Chicago. Welcome, Leon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
A little bit about Leon. He was elected the mayor of North Chicago in 2005. He's a lifelong resident of North Chicago. He's married to Yvonne Cole Rockingham, and graduated from North Chicago High School and attended Ohio University. Leon has two daughters. It's Tamika and Leah.
Leah.
He is a loving and proud grandparent of 5. Congratulations.
Yes.
That's probably the hardest part of your job.
I know. Too great, but we won't go there.
Mayor Rockingham is a retired systems technician from AT&T with a tenure of 31 years. He served in North Chicago's 4th Ward alderman for 12 years from 1989 to 2001. He served as a commissioner on the East Skokie Drainage District and was a member of the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County, as a board member on the Lake County Stormwater Management Agency. Tonight, Leon, we're going to talk a little bit about your role as mayor in Lake County, Illinois here in North Chicago. Your position as chair of the Lake County Council of Mayors, and your role as first vice president of the Illinois Municipal League. And again, welcome to our Fireside Chat. The fire's not on tonight. It's a little warm in here, so you don't want to heat it up any more than it already is. Although we like to put you on the hot seat a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's still warm.
First of all, from your bio, you have a considerable amount of both private and public experience. What inspired you to run for public office, first as an alderman and then as mayor?
Well, you know, Rich, I mean, it's, we're here and you call me Leon, so.
Sounds good.
All right. So, you know, back in, it was probably back in 88, 89. Actually, when I was working for the phone company, there was a gentleman that was actually an alderman that worked with me at the phone company, and he was retiring, and he decided he was going to move back down south. So he approached me and says, you should become an alderman. And my first question back to him was, well, what's an alderman do? Mm-hmm. And when he started explaining to me that it sets the policy for the city, and mm-hmm. Kind of gives you the direction of what your community goes in, and my first thought was, well, I was born and raised here. And I really wanted to try to give something back to my community, and I think that's what really inspired me to say, okay, let me see what I could do. And just to give you a little background, so when he had approached me, North Chicago has the primary and the general election, and the primary had already ran. So there was a candidate that was already in the primary, and I said, well, I'm going to get in it anyway. So I ran in the general as an independent, and got the family together, and my family, my wife and me, and we made our signs up and went throughout the ward and started knocking on doors and just kind of telling them, what my agenda was and how I wanted to see not just my ward, but the city itself. And actually, I won it through as an independent, and rest is history.
Yeah, good for you. That's a hard thing to do, to walk out there when the primary's already done and jump as an independent. It's going to be a lot of work. So. As mayor, what have been some of the toughest challenges you've encountered, and what's some of the greatest rewards?
Wow, toughest challenges. This is my 4th term as mayor, so I've been mayor for some 14 years. And as I look back on the issues that were going on in our community, my toughest challenge, and I think that a lot of communities, or a lot of Lake County knows it, we had an issue where our police had a domestic call, and when they got on scene, there was a young lady on the 2nd floor that they could hear in distress. They knocked on the door to a point where they had to go in and find out what was going on. The lady ran out. The gentleman inside was still combative, and our police had to come in and subdue him. During that time, they had to take him to the hospital. He died. His name was Darian Hanna. and that was, they called the Darian Hannah case. From there, it went to, excessive force with our police department, and it just changed the whole dynamics of our community, changed the whole dynamics of how our council was being run. When you can have a city council meeting and the only people there is your department heads, and then all of a sudden you come in the next one, and all of a sudden you walk in and you see CNN, ABC, NBC, Fox News all saying, "Mayor, what are you going to do to make this right?" That was one of my difficult challenges. And it was a 3-month process that we went through. To me, it made it better for our community, though. I was able to put things in place to get better training for our police department. We put a board together, which is a Citizens Advisory Board. So anyone that has a concern or problem can go to them, and then they can take that to our board. So I think that was the most difficult challenge I had as a mayor.
It's such an emotional time.
It was emotional. There's other things that factored into it at that time, but that was really a challenge in our city. And and I think it came out on the positive, because those people that were there really voicing their opinion to say, North Chicago, you're not doing this right, today now are some of my biggest advocates, because they've seen that our community took the initiative to put things in place. So I want to say that was probably my biggest challenge. Some of the positives for our community, I look back and, North Chicago was one of the first communities to bring in UVerse, where cable TV had, competition. So, we brought that in. We brought in first to bring UVerse in. Some of the other things that we've done and accomplishments, we have surveillance cameras throughout the city that feed back to our 911 board, so that we can, see areas of North Chicago that may be of concerns. I think that has been a very positive for our community. And then one of the other big things is we have one of our main roads in North Chicago is Martin Luther King. To be able to get grant dollars, some $14, $15 million project that we were able to acquire funding for, that, our biggest outlay was to put in the water and sewer lines. But, so Martin Luther King got totally reconstructed, new water lines, new sewer lines, total reconstruction, lighting. So some of those are some of the things I'm very proud of.
Whenever you have a main road going through your town and it's in disrepair, it brings the whole town down. So by doing that alone, you definitely improved your whole community.
Yes, so.
Round Lake Beach was hit very hard by the recession, losing approximately 40% of our equalized assessed valuation. We're actually still have not fully recovered from that. What impact did the recession have on North Chicago? What impact did it have on your decision making?
Wow. Now, you told me you weren't going to be any tough questions. But well, and I think a lot of communities were hit pretty hard with the recession. And, North Chicago, unlike Round Lake, we had our challenges also. And so, what we have done over the past, one of the things we've done is, because of some of the housing stock that that was left behind, because a lot of people just walked away from their homes, we were actually able to bring in some grant dollars to do demolition on some of the really bad abandoned houses that were, you knew that there was no way that they're going to be renovated. So over the course of the last probably 7-8 years, we've taken down some 25 houses that are like that. And what that's done is brought the EAV of that community, and throughout North Chicago continue to start to raise it. We're probably 9% of our EAV assessed evaluation has increased over the last 3 years by 9%.
That's nice.
So yes, and we're continually going out to try to acquire those dollars to move in that direction. a blighted house, and I'm sure, there's, throughout other communities, it just is a haven for trouble. And those are the things you have to really start to address. And I think that's, we put that in place. We put what we call our blight busting effort, where we have obviously brought in our police department, our fire department, our building department, and when we go out for inspections, we just make sure that, things are up to code, life safety issues are being met, and that's not just with the housing, but also with the businesses, to make sure that, our residents are safe and our building stock is moving in the right direction.
The houses in a community are just like apples in a barrel. You have one rotten one in there, and it infects the whole barrel.
It brings the whole neighborhood down. So
you get rid of that, and everything's better.
And a lot of the, excuse me, a lot of the neighborhood and the homeowners around that, I mean, they really are pleased to see that, you come in and take that blight out of that neighborhood. And it just, like you say, even if it's just grass, it just changes the whole demeanor, and it lifts the whole community up.
As a lifelong resident of Lake County in North Chicago, you've seen a lot of change occur within the country and in the county. In your opinion, what change have you viewed as positive, and what do you believe have been negative impact?
Negative impact.
And positive.
Yeah, well, let's go with the, we'll go to the negative side.
Okay.
Well, and I guess it's budgetary, our increase in our property taxes. The state continues to put mandates on their communities, and it makes it more difficult for communities to thrive and come up. So I think that a lot of that comes from just being able to, if trying to build that up, trying to compete against that. That's one of the biggest negatives I see over the years. Positive, I think Lake County as a whole has continued to thrive. In a lot of areas, you see that even for Round Lake, I mean, your business district, how it has improved. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's, we continue to, though the state as a whole is hurting, but I think Lake County as a whole has continued to move forward and bring businesses in.
Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. Even though the state has been fiscally mismanaged and there's a lot of problems, this county has been working together well enough that we've kind of avoided a lot of those issues. So, but if the state hurts, we all hurt from it.
Right, sure.
As mayors in Lake County, we both serve communities of similar populations, but in different regions. You're over in the eastern part by Lake Michigan, and I'm over here in the western section of Lake County. Do you feel that local issues in our respective parts of the county are similar, or do you think there's quite a bit of a difference in what we have to deal with?
No, I think, Rich, I think we both know that our communities are fairly similar to some degree. And we've got to work together throughout Lake County. I don't think that, if you put yourself into a silo, and then, it hurts everyone. North Chicago, we were very heavily industrial at one point, but we've moved beyond that. We still have Abbott and ADV and Procter and Gamble and Naval Station Great Lakes that is there, but the issues that concern you are the same issues that concern my town. And so I think as a whole, we, though you're out here in the western section and I'm on the east, I think our biggest problem, and I'm sure you're going to have questions about it, but transportation is just getting to and from each other.
Yes,
can be a hard sell.
Well, even though we're separated, you have Lake Michigan right on your shores. We have Lake Michigan water being pumped to us, so we're about the same.
Yes.
What do you feel are some of the major issues facing our communities?
Well, I think, you know, some of the biggest issues right now is police and fire pensions.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of communities right now have that issue. You know, North Chicago has been facing that, and you know, we've been working to try to deal with it. But I think that's one of the issues. Again, I'll say transportation and just be able to with Metra and trying to bring in Pace bus and things like that. I think those are some of the biggest issues that, you know, face our communities, and not just ours, but, you know, throughout Lake County, Waukegan, Gurnee, Zion. So, you know, if a person has a job, they may not have the transportation to get there. So, I mean, that's something that, you know, if there's not good public transportation available, then that person may lose that job. So.
Yeah, the pensions is something we've all been working on for years, trying to ask the state to make a change, since they are the ones control it. We can do all we want, but they pass the laws that can make a difference. And what the IML is working on right now, which you're going to be chair or president there pretty soon on that.
Yeah.
I think they have a great thing going. We have the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund for all of our regular staff. Police and fire have their own separate pension funds, though. And if they roll them into the same type of program, completely separate, but the same process, it would alleviate a lot of our tax problems.
And I think that is one of our biggest pushes for the Illinois Municipal League. You know, our executive director, Brad Cole, we kind of gave him a directive, you know, to let's roll this out to down to our legislators in Springfield, that we need to have a change. It cannot continue to move in the direction it's going. It hurts all of our communities as far as pension goes. Like you say, our IMRF, which is the Illinois Municipal Retirement Funds, that's been thriving because it's all in, you know, one pot, and you get a better return from your dollars from it. And, you know, I think there's like some 600 and something different pension funds throughout the state of Illinois. Each pension fund has its own actuary, it has its own attorneys, it has its own board, and some boards do better than other boards. Well, the thing about it is, you've got police, and I don't want to get on my soapbox about it, but you got police and firemen that are trying to run, you know, to manage their pension. Right. Their job was to, you know, public safety.
Yes.
And, you know, let's consolidate those dollars. Bring it in just like IMRF, and you're going to get a better return. You get someone in there that's going to be able to manage that fund, and it will. I see it as helping. Now you don't have as many attorneys that you're funding. Each one is funding their own attorneys, and it can still, your money is protected. However much money you put into your fund from that community, that's the money you have available to take out. And the Illinois Municipal League, we've proposed 3 different agendas to down in Springfield. I just asked them to pick one of them. It doesn't matter which one, it'll still benefit all the communities throughout the state of Illinois. Yes. And so that's something that we must get in place.
Yeah, I agree. The IMRF is the perfect model that would be best for everybody involved. And the nice thing about any of the changes, none of them reduce benefits at all.
Right.
None, zero, not a drop.
Not a
but
drop.
Allow us to increase the funding levels of their pension funds, and then eventually help probably use that money for more important, or not more important, but other projects in town would be putting a new road in, or all sorts of things that would be available then.
You know, North Chicago, and since we're speaking of it, you know, we funded our pension, and we're probably one of the lowest ones. We've only been funding it at about 36%. And I'll tell you, Rich, it's hurt us because, and rightly so, they had their, you know, they had their right to, but our police pension board did go to the state, says, you know, we want our dollars, and the state granted it. How it hurt our community it just, the state started holding back our property taxes, our sales tax, our 911 funding, because they were looking for some $800,000 to put into that pension. We had to work with our fire pension board that says, look, we will start to fund it, but you have to release these dollars. It was getting to a point where, I was worried if we were going to be able to meet payroll, because these are the dollars that come in to pay our employees. So we did have to work with them, but in order to make that fund work, the city really had to do some serious cuts to make it work. And to a point where some of the things we're doing is consolidating our 911 board. We're going to be moving it out to Mundelein. That's going to save us some $500,000. We're going to be consolidating some of in our public works department. Our records department is, we're going to eliminate 3 employees there in order to make sure that our pensions are being funded. That's why I'm a very heavy advocate to say, state, we've got to do something for these police and fire pensions to make it right.
Well, on a more positive note.
Okay, let's go back to positive.
There's been a lot of positive news with the corporate funding going on in the North Chicago School District. How was the city of North Chicago working with the school district to take advantage of these new partnerships?
That is a blessing. ADVI has came in to our school district 187 and at our Neal Math and Science. They are getting ready to build a brand new school, a $40 million school that is going to be help funded through ADVI. Very positive. When you have your students being able to possibly have smaller class sizes and state-of-the-art equipment that is going to be available for them, that's what's going to help to change the scope of some of the education in the city of North Chicago. I've been working with ADVI and just making a partnership for some time. They are good corporate partners for the city of North Chicago. So one of the things that we have been working with ADVI on is, from the city of North Chicago side, is that we want to see, and ADVI is the same way, we're going to be getting new street lighting throughout the city, working with them. And some of the other things is a thing called Shot Spotter. Shot Spotter is a technology now where you see it throughout a lot of municipalities. If there is a shooting, it pinpoints it within 5 to 10 feet of where that shot came from. And we can automatically dispatch out. They said it'll get to our dispatch center, within a 15, 20 second, response. So we can automatically dispatch our cars, whether it's, whatever the incident is. And ADVI has also said that they're in the process of upgrading our cameras. As I spoke of, we had surveillance cameras. We have about 7 of them out now, and ADVI has worked with us to say they're going to upgrade them to the newer technology, so that possibly some of the cameras that are out there, as that shot spotter pinpoints it, if our cameras hears it also, it can turn to that area where the shot is coming from, so that we have an opportunity to possibly video whatever's going on in that area. So that is that's a positive for our community. That's over $1 million worth of work that they're going to be bringing into the city of North Chicago. So they've been a good, like I say, a good partner for us through that, and just the sale of our water to them, and just something that this global industry has turned to North Chicago and says, these are the things we want to do to work with you.
Well, that's great. Yeah, 'cause there are employees come there every day from all over the county and maybe across the state lines, but they are all there, and then that's their home also.
Yes.
As the state continues to struggle through its financial struggles, what impact, if any, has the state's financial condition had on your community? The worst part for us is probably when they had the budget impasse and none of our funds were being released.
Right.
Luckily, we had a big enough fund balance that carried us through, but some smaller communities, that really hurt them.
Right. And I think that's kind of the same way with us. Even though, with the police and fire pension is still, when they were holding back, when they, and I can't remember what it was, but, they're not giving us our full 10% back for the government. Yeah, it sits at about 6 or 7% right now.
LGDF,
Yeah, and so those are kind of things that hurts a community.
Yep.
So we need to be fully funded back to our 10%.
No, I agree. That's been a lot of discussion on that, but it hasn't gone anywhere.
Yes.
The state says they need the money too much, they're going to hold on to it. Illinois has seen a population decline over the last 5 years, totaling more than 157,000. With 2020 fast approaching, what steps has your community taken to make sure that everyone is counted during the upcoming census? As mayors, why is it important that local municipalities, that everyone participates in the census?
Wow, I mean, that's, to me, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But you've got to get it out to the residents to make them understand. If you're not counted in the census, it affects our dollars that are coming into our communities from the state. We get motor fuel tax dollars from it. So if your population starts to go down, you're not going to get as many dollars. Though you may have the population there, you're not having the dollars to help fund it. And North Chicago is what they call a hard-to-count community. So it's a lot of, we have a lot of black and Latinos that don't trust the government. And, to some degree, you don't blame them, but yet and still, you've got to be able to get that word out that says, this is best for us. Best, when I say us, it's for, all of us. If you want to be able to fund United Way, Community Action Partner, you have a lot of organizations that are out there that you rely on your dollars from. And if that population goes down, then you're not going to receive as many dollars from that. What we've done from the city of North Chicago, we've worked and we've got grant dollars that we have submitted. A company called Forefront that were out for grants. We've got a $15,000 grant from them and a $71,000 grant from another organization, so that we can be able to fund to be able to get the word out. And 2020 is right around the corner. And again, because North Chicago is a hard to count, we have been already on our web pages, get out and be counted, through our newsletter to be counted, and they still haven't at the federal level figured out if they're going to keep that question on the ballot.
That's right. Yeah.
For are you a citizen or not? Yeah. Again, if I'm a Latino person and not knowing if I check that box, how that's going to affect me, are they going to come and take my family away? That's a concern. And I don't know why they want to put that even on there. If it's a census, just to know where are you at this particular moment in 2020. It shouldn't even be there, but it is. They're making the census easier to apply. You can even call it in now. To once it's up and running, you can call it in. You could get on a computer, or you can write it out. And I mean, so there's a lot of ways to do it, but we've got to get out. And it's not just North Chicago. Again, it's Lake County. And I always go back to say it's Lake County, though. I'm going to advocate and fight for North Chicago, but if the county doesn't continue to, if we've got to push the whole county forward also.
Right.
so that we can all, benefit from it.
Yeah, I think it's over $100 a person that we get locally here throughout all the different funds, distribution-wise, and then even it's important, not more important, it's representation we have in the state and the federal governments based on our population.
On our
If our
population.
population count are too low,
Senators, our
we
state
lose.
reps, I mean,
Right.
a lot of things come into play when you talk about the census.
Yes.
And people don't realize if we lose, and we've lost over the last few census, our state reps, our federal, it's going to hurt us when we try to acquire dollars and funding into our community.
Over the last several years, Round Lake Beach has been working with other local governments and agencies to develop partnerships in an effort to eliminate duplication of services and improve services to our area residents. What types of public-private partnerships is North Chicago working on or are you involved in? You mentioned the 911 consolidation.
911 consolidation, I think we've actually taken a page book out of your community. I know that you're part of like Enterprise and consolidating
Yes.
our cars and bringing that on board. I think that's a big part of how do you save money. And you can't keep putting it onto our taxpayers, our residents. So I mean, 911 was our big push. I was glad to see that we were able to get that passed. I think Mundelein is going to be a plus for us. They just opened their center up. Ourselves and I believe it's Winthrop Harbor is going to be consolidated with them also. So that's going to be an area of savings. We have also, like I say, through Enterprise, being able to do them, then we can cut, and I hate to say it, but staff. But, that's part of what you have to do in order to be able to save on tax dollars.
And private business is so often much more productive and better able to take
Equipped.
care of things like that.
Sure.
They're running better, more efficient.
Yes, yeah. So we're in that process now. We just finalized the enterprise agreement, and I think we're going to be starting to receive some of our vehicles within the next month or so.
Oh, great.
So,
Well, it's worked out very well for us. I hope the same success for you.
thank you.
Both of our municipalities participate in joint ventures such as SWALCO, the Solid Waste Agency of Lake County Council of Mayors, Lake County Municipal League, Lake County Task Force, Illinois Municipal League, and many others. What areas
Wow,
could
we
you
got a lot.
envision? Yeah, a lot of stuff, isn't it? Yeah, we're busy. And what other areas could you envision that our two communities could work together to improve services to our residents?
Well, I think when you speak of all those different boards and agencies that we have out there, whether it's SWACO for the, Solid Waste Agency, knowing that, if we consolidate just garbage pickup, knowing that they have, a partner with that, again, it brings the price down, transportation-wise, with Lake County Council of Mayors. We've worked through the Lake County Municipal League just on being able to, with our road projects, crack filling. We go out and advertise for all the municipalities to be able to consolidate as one, and to go to that company and says, hey, we've got all these agents, all these communities, give us a better price.
Yes, they have a $10,000 or $20,000 bid. You're up to $200,000 bid, and people are going to bid on that then.
Exactly.
And they get mobilized, because that's half the price of that stuff. Mobilize all the equipment out there. Once they're there, then they can do it.
Exactly. I mean, even there's things like that, street sweeping, anything that
Right.
you can join together in communities. It's going to give you a better price, price cut. So.
Oh, we'll keep on working it together. I'm sure
Yes.
we'll come up with more things as we go along here. You serve as the chairman of the Lake County Council of Mayors. You already mentioned that. What is the Council of Mayors and what purpose does it serve?
Well, Council of Mayors is more for transportation, road projects, for as far as bus transportation, rail transportation, and how those dollars are allocated throughout Lake County. We just actually through CMAP, because that's another board that I sit on, which is the Chicago Metropolitan Area for Planning. First and foremost, that board coming out of Chicago and all the collar counties around Chicago, that's where our federal dollars come into. And from those federal dollars, then it's allocated out to our collar counties. And that's where our Lake County Council of Mayors come in. So those dollars that come in to Lake County, then we allocate it out to throughout Lake County to the municipalities that request funding for different projects. And they just restructured our STP funding, and it was a long, daunting project that, again, I ended up sitting on, but it's going to give us an opportunity, I think, in the long run, to get more dollars into Lake County.
I hope so.
One of the biggest things that we've seen, because the reason we had to restructure, is a lot of communities was holding on to the dollars.
Yeah.
They were saying, well, we got a road project here and we've got, another $25 million, but we don't want to use it yet. Well, use that dollars. There's enough roads throughout the areas that those dollars can go out to. It's going to be, I think as we restructure and start to move forward in that, you're going to start to see, I think, Lake County, because we use our dollars throughout, and we need them. So through the Lake County Council of Mayors, through that restructuring, I think a lot of communities throughout Lake County with road projects, and then also trying to make sure that the public transportation is going to be more funded.
Does Lake County Council of Mayors play any role in regional transportation planning?
To some degree. The regional planning is done through PACE and some of the other, but we're the ones that would say, we need another reverse commute.
Yeah, like Lake Forest is starting?
Yes, I mean, reverse commute is something that was needed for our community throughout, Lake County, and to get more rail trains to come back instead of just going into Chicago and more times. So I think that's going to be a positive for us. If you have a community that that there needs to be bus stops put in, for additional ridership, I think that's how we play a more positive role to go to them and say these are things that are needed, throughout our Lake County or your own particular city.
Yeah, some of the larger transit, I guess, would be the RTA and the Metro and the PACE, like you mentioned, and places like that. But as far as the roads regionally, I know we've both been very involved with Lake County Partners and the Transportation Alliance and things like that, where they're looking at different scope of improving long-term transportation,
right.
What we still can.
And they say that now. I left North Chicago at 5 o'clock to make sure I got here at 6. And I was going to say, at the peak of traffic, it's hard to get east and west, less known north and south. Yeah. So here in Lake County, I think we do need to really start to look at some more of our road projects that are out there. We've got 120 Washington Grand, but when you start to move further out west, then it gets more congested. There's another project, 53. That's a project that's been out there for years.
Over 50, yeah.
Yeah, but think of what it would be like if Route 53 really did get constructed. How much less congestion you're going to get on 294 and 41, right, because you've got to come all the way east, come north, and then go back out, west for a lot of people to get home. And I just don't think it's efficient. If you're talking about worrying about gas prices and how, you know,
You're sitting there idling in traffic. Yeah, what a waste.
I think that's, you know, at someday, you know, someday, maybe not in our generation or our time, but hopefully, you know.
I think our parents are the same thing. Someday.
Yes, I know.
In your role as chairman, what is your opinion? Do you feel you are the greatest? What do you feel are the greatest infrastructure transportation issues facing the county and the state? We just kind of talked about that, so I'm not sure if you want to add any more to that.
No, I think, like I say, I think a lot of the road projects that we have, you know, people don't like it in the summertime, and you know they're tearing up roads and redoing roads, but boy, they sure like them once they're done and they're riding on a nice smooth surface. So, you know, I'm glad to see even in our area, Route 41 is getting resurfaced. You know, they're taking it from 120 all the way to Lake Cook Road.
That's right, yeah.
You know, that's a great project. You know, I'm glad to see they're funding that. But you know, we do have to start looking at how are we going to get additional. You know, at some point more lanes going to have to be made to get, you know, more cars. You know, traffic.
Go down south and you have highways are 3 lanes in each direction, and their traffic is like 1/10 of our traffic, and we have 4 lanes up here. It's like, woohoo, yay, lucky us. And you're right, that's got to change. I know the governor's in prison now, but Rod Blagojevich, when he made the open road tolling, that was one of the biggest achievements of tollway ever.
Yes.
It sped up so much traffic, and have to slow
cars,
down, pay your
cars
toll.
don't have to stop for that toll, and you know, and it's gone, you know, almost nationwide. You can, you know, use your toll pass and go into Indiana and, you know, right on through. So, which is a plus.
That's been a big benefit also when you go on vacations or something. You have to try to stop, pull over, keep on moving. So it's nice. You also serve as first vice president of the Yellowness Municipal League, and this fall you'll be sworn in as president. Can you tell us a little bit about your role there and how it's going to change?
Well, you know, the IML board is a great organization. You know, we're kind of the overseers for a lot of our communities. I think we got over 1,200, you know, communities part of IML, and through the IML board, you know, we kind of monitor and see what goes on in Springfield. You know, a lot of sometimes those unfunded mandates that they want to put on us. You know, our board is there to try to advocate for our cities, and you know, pension reform, like I say, the LGD funding is there. You know, we're pushing to try to recoup that. Also, a lot of times if communities has questions or concerns regarding issues, you know, IML will be an advocate for them. They will also, you know, put out legislation or their briefs on how, you know, things, you know, should be done. So I think that as I move into that role, even as first vice president, I have an opportunity to attend some of the other COGs and also some of the other municipal leagues, and see how they are, you know, how their boards are being run, some of their issues and concerns that are out there, and so that for IML continue to be an advocate for all, you know, the state of Illinois.
As I asked you earlier, the things that we face, you're on all the way in the east side of the county, me in the west side, how similar are they? It's not just us, it's pretty much every municipality. We all have police forces, we have roads we need to keep fixed, we need water and sewer. That's what we serve people, the basics.
Basics, and you know, and that's you're right, that's throughout, you know, and I think that's part of what the Illinois Municipal League tries to get that message out.
Really focus on those.
That we're working as an advocate for the communities that are out there, and to be able to get that message out.
Right. When Brad Cole, the IML executive director, was out as one of my guests here on my Fireside Chats, I posed a question to him that every year it seems like the press prints stories concerning the Illinois Municipal League annual conference and the amount of funds that each community spends to send the trustees there to go through all the classes. Do you think that this type of press attention is really fair to the communities, and what do you think we can do to change that so they really look at it properly? It's an educational experience.
And I think that's exactly what you said, an educational experience. I mean, if more press would actually go to the IML and see exactly what are being done, the different classes that we're, we offer for the municipalities, the trustees and the aldermen and the mayors that come to that conference. We hold one major conference a year, and we try to bring as many different communities in so that we can hear from all the communities of what their issues are, and let them have as much knowledge as possible to take back to their cities. And that's what it is. Besides for the classes, once that class is over with, you see so many people coming together and speaking on those issues of, that they have that same issue that they just spoke about. Right. And I think, that I would love to be able to have one of our classes is how to handle the press, because I think that would be an excellent program. And not to do it in a negative way, but a positive way. I had that opportunity to actually, when I was went to the National League of Cities, they hold classes there, and one of the classes I did attend was how to handle the press, and it really did help me when the Daring Hannah case actually came about. It helped me prepare myself when that camera and that mic is in front of your face going, Mayor, what happened? Or, how are you going to handle this situation? And you've got to be straightforward with them. You've got to be as transparent as possible with them, but yet and still, you've got to continue to get your message out also. And I think that's kind of what we have to do, as the press comes with us saying, well, that's, you're wasting taxpayers' dollars. No, our message has got to be, this is what's going to be best for our community so that we will be able to know how to handle issues. We will be able to know that there's grant funding out here available, to our community. Whatever the, conference classes are, these are things that, we've got to be able to continue to push out for the councils that are out there throughout Illinois.
And there's so many different laws in the state of Illinois. Zoning is a great one. There's so many different things you can't consider that when you're deciding on zoning. You can't consider that. Variances, you can't consider that. These are what you have to.
And those change, annually.
Way too frequently.
And if you're not up on them and be able to take that back or be able to, put those in place, then you're going to get in trouble.
Yes.
The state will be the first one to come back and says, you didn't do that right, and we're going to pull funds from you.
Right.
So, those are some of the things that, I know that, not only through the trustees and aldermen, but also our legal counsel has sessions there also. Right. And they're being brought up on the new laws that are being placed, throughout Illinois.
And every year the courts come up with new decisions that change the meaning or the definition of a law to a certain degree also. They have to make sure they have it right this year versus last year.
Right, so.
And there's a lot of things. The long-term planning, we've come back with better ways to have citizen engagement, getting more people involved in the process. The crime-free multi-housing, one of the things we started, but that really helped us down at the IML to really finalize it and put it in place. So
sure.
There's so many great things. With the current national discourse involving our national political parties and leadership, what advice would you give to a young person who may be interested in becoming involved in local government?
I was going to say stay away, but but no. I have an opportunity to go in a lot of into our schools. And whether it's in junior high, high school, and even at Rosalind Franklin University, and they'll ask that same question. How do I get involved, or should I? And I said, you have to get involved. Right. Don't sit on the sidelines when you know there's issues out there that you may look at and you say that's not right. we should be doing it this way. Then get involved, make that change. I think all of us here in this room, at some point, there's going to be somebody else sitting in your seat, and that person, has to be, it's going to be a mayor, another mayor, another trustee, another alderman. Whether it's at the, being on a library board, a pension board, an alderman or a trustee, you can make a difference. You can make a change. You can, you could be that one person that can make your community a better place. So, though you hear a lot of rhetoric and a lot of, noise, as I call it, noise is always going to be out there. I don't care how you look at it. I don't care who's in office. There's going to be louder noises than others, and right now it's screaming. But if you get involved and maybe you can make that noise a little bit lessen.
And whenever I interview people that want to be on the planning and zoning or anything, if they want to maybe run for trustee, that's the first thing I find out about them. Can you have a civil discussion like we're having now on any topic? Have your facts together, make your explanations clear and presentable without being nasty, just be professional about it. That's very important.
One of the biggest things you got to do.
Yes.
Yes.
It's amazing how many people can't do that.
There's a lot of times where, and I'll say this: people push your button.
Yes.
And how you react to that when they push that button is going to really mean how you are perceived. And I'll have to go back to my Darian Hannah incident, because people used to get up in front of me at city council and and scream and yell, and Mayor, you're not doing this right, and get rid of all the police officers, and we're gonna just and I let them speak, and afterwards I said thank you very much, and let them because at that point, because of their demeanor, anything I say is going to just continue to fuel that fire. And that is not the time to have a discussion. If you want to be one-on-one with me and we want to talk, I'll be more than happy to. But at that time, they were mad about an issue that was going on, which, I guess to some cases they had a right to, but that wasn't the time to have a discussion. So, and that's how, they'll push that button. You just got to know how to react to it.
Sometimes you let them vent and then come back a later date when everything's a little more calm.
And we can sit and
have
talk
that
about
discussion, like you said.
And it's a more calmer discussion.
Yes. You and I talked earlier about the Great Lakes Naval Base, or Naval Station Great Lakes. Is that the proper
Naval Station
term?
Great Lakes, yes.
And I know you've been working on different things with them. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do there, working with them, and how that having them in your community has been a positive or a negative?
Well, Naval Station Great Lakes, first and foremost, is the #1 employer for Lake County.
Yeah.
So right there, it's a plus. Naval Station Great Lakes is the only recruit training center in the United States. So that's a plus for Lake County. Naval, and through that, they will graduate anywhere from 600 to 1,200 recruits 49 weeks out of a year on Friday. People don't realize that. So, I mean, that is a plus for Lake County as a whole. It brings in tourism. It brings in, that mom and dad that want to see their son and daughter graduate from the Navy. For them, it's like graduating from college. They, that's their son and daughter who has completed the training that the United
rigorous
States
training.
government.
That's not easy.
And I've been on base and I've watched them train recruits. You're right. I mean, they're learning how they come in, as I say, a kid, and go out a man and a woman that is ready to face the world. And that's done in a very short period of time. Through Naval Station Great Lakes, I think we all should, be aware that it's there. Now, I will say this, that, one of the concerns that we have as a city, they have privatized their housing at Great Lakes. Forrestal Halsey and Nimitz Village has been privatized. There's a company called Hunt Communities who is the management company there that manages the housing. The city of North Chicago now does the policing for them. So we actually do our policing, that we've have an agreement through them to do the policing on Navy property. So I mean, that's a plus for us. But I guess to some degree how it hinders us and kind of, it's hard to bring development into North Chicago, economic development to North Chicago, because a lot of businesses doesn't want to compete against the Navy Exchange or the commissary. Though, North Chicago is a population of 32,574 people at this census. Hopefully we won't lose any at the next census. But some 13,000 of them are Navy, families that can utilize the commissary and the exchange. So, you're talking, another 16,000 or so that can't. So, we still need to bring in that type of development. So, to some degree, that does hurt us. But, I'm very proud of knowing that it is in our town. I've had an opportunity through the Navy to go out to San Diego, and actually they flew us and landed on an aircraft carrier, the Carl Vinson's, to be, to have that tail hook landing on an aircraft carrier, and you get off of that plane, and that ship had some 3,000 Navy personnel on there.
Wow. Small city.
A huge small city. And they were getting ready to be deployed within a month, and there's going to be up to 5,000 on that ship. Wow. And what impressed me the most is all those sailors came from North Chicago. They were trained right here in Lake County. Other than those that, the captain and the captain of the ship that might have been trained in Annapolis, everyone else came right, from here. And I was very proud. You see these men and women on this ship doing their job, doing it as efficiently as, ready to sacrifice their lives. But they were trained right here in North Chicago in Lake County. So, we all should be proud of that. I know that, on Friday through Sunday, we all see the Navy out. Their parents are here. They're walking around. They're at Gurney Mills. They're at out at Hawthorne. They're throughout. I say to Lake County, when you see that, go up and say thank you. Thank you for what you've done to start your career in the Navy. I try to do that as much as possible, just to let them know that we appreciate that. Because these are kids. They're young kids, and they're going out to say, hey, I'm here to protect our country, and that's something we should do.
Yeah, and with Monday coming up being Memorial Day, that honoring those that have fallen in combat, that's even more important. So.
It is.
Well, that's my last question, so I'll open it up at this time to the audience. Anyone in the audience has any questions or comments for Leon here?
If you look at your property taxes, schools is probably in first, and right below is the police and fire pensions. That's usually, and until the like I say, the pension is corrected, I mean, that's gonna and being a voice to go out to your legislators and say, that pension has to be reformed, and a lot more people have to get to their senators and their state reps to say we need a change. That's the only way. And school boards, like you say, got to get on it.
Have a voice.
Yeah, school boards, they do hold some kind of responsibility in the fact that sometimes they agree to contracts that are really giving away the farm. But a lot of things that they do are mandated by the state. And again, the state of Illinois, just like they do with us, they tie our hands in so many areas. You got to pay them this, you got to give them that, got to give them that. You have no choice. And then you go to the taxpayers, and the taxpayers are like, why are you doing this? Because we have to. The state says we have to. So until the state of Illinois gets their act together and puts things back, they'll let us make our own decisions, nothing's going to change in the schools. Nothing.
And then I do have another question, because we have lost so many industries in the last 5-7 years. Are either communities doing anything to attract some industries back into your community?
We're not.
For us, I mean, yes, we're first and foremost, we're kind of landlocked. So it's going to be hard to attract a large business. So what I've been trying to do on my side is to start to bring in startup businesses into our community. If we can get some startup businesses in, and once they start to grow, maybe at that point we'll try to work them into other areas. But if you at least bring a startup business that brings employment to your community, and it brings jobs. I know Rosalind Franklin right now, they have a $60 million project. They're actually on their campus. They've built a incubator, what they call wet labs, for also startup businesses, a biotech district. So that's for us that's a very positive. But I want to be able to capture that. As I told you, Naval Station Great Lakes, their housing has, some of their housing has been removed. They're reduced. So that land that's available, I'd like to try to acquire that land, build office research parks in there, so as those incubators start to grow, they have a second home, I guess you say, to start their business. That's one of our projects that we've been working on.
And are we doing anything here in Round Lake Beach too?
Like Leon was just saying also, we have very little land available. We maybe put a small office park here or there. We've been trying to develop that. That hasn't gone anywhere yet. Part of it will be when we get the extra extension of Hook Drive. That'll open up some property back there. But right now, no, we don't have the land available. We're such a bedroom community, we're pretty much landlocked. We have another question in the back?
A little different direction. My family grew up in North Chicago. My
Yay.
maiden name's Orlowski, and I have so many fond memories, of like riding my bike down to Foss Park and
Yes.
playing softball. And there used to be that gym on Sheridan Road,
Foss Park.
Yeah, I loved Foss Park as a kid, and you have that access to the lake. I was just curious, I haven't been down there in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on down there? And then when you go a little south, all that industry, is that functional industry, or will that be torn down? Is
It's
it being
already torn
torn
down.
Is the land
when you
buildable,
talk about
or is it
fan steel,
contaminated? Yeah.
Fan Steel, Lavin, Mary's Cleaners, that's all gone. We're in the process of working to do a redevelopment on there. We've been working to bring a hotel, movie theater. That's going to be the home of the National Museum of the American Sailor. We're working on that site there. It's about 35 acres that and the contamination that was there, we've gotten no further remediation from the state and the federal government to say that you can build on that land, you just can't, if you do disturb it as far as underneath, you have to remove it, but you can put slabs on it to build on it. So that's what we've been working. We've been working with a developer at that site, and we're getting very close to breaking ground as far as for the hotel. And I'm going to take you back too. So when you talk about Foss Park on Sheridan Road, when we were little kids, we used to play in there, and that gym looked to be so big. But if you really think about it, if you went out of bounds, you had 1 foot before you hit the wall. So I mean, it was a gym, but that's all it was a gym. There was no room to to move. But yeah, and like you see, back then you had Park Theater and some of the others that were there. So I can go down memory lane with you all day long.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight. We actually running way late tonight. Stick around, though. We'll answer some questions afterwards. My next Fireside Chat's not going to be until September 18th, 2019, and my guest then will be State Senator Melinda Bush. So make sure you put that in your calendars. Come on back, 6 p.m. We'll start up the interview at 6:30. Looking forward to that. Leon, thank you very much for being here. It's always a pleasure.
You. Enjoyed it. Had a great time.
I know you have probably your own North Chicago pins, but here's one you wear alongside it, one of the Round Lake Beach pins.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leon.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Had a good time.
Good night, everyone.